Welcome to the channel Coin NEXA VAULT. I want you to picture yourself in 1996, standing at a gas station counter, maybe buying a pack of gum for a quarter, and that very quarter, the 1996 D Washington quarter, could today be worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. That is not hyperbole, and it is not speculation. This is documented numismatic reality, and it begins with understanding what separates an ordinary 1996 D quarter from one that has commanded extraordinary premiums in the marketplace. At a heritage auction sale, certified examples of this date and mint mark with specific characteristics have realized values that genuinely stunned seasoned collectors who thought they had seen everything the Washington Quarter Series had to offer, and the record for the finest known specimen stands at figures that would make any rational person stop and examine every single 1996 D quarter they encounter. Now, let's get into the substance of why this coin matters, because the story behind its value is as fascinating as the numbers themselves. The year 1996 was a period of economic optimism in America, the internet was beginning to transform daily life, and the Denver Mint was producing Washington quarters at a pace that reflected steady commercial demand, yet within that massive production run, certain anomalies occurred that created legitimate scarcity among the billions of quarters struck that year. The Denver Mint produced 1996 D quarters using dies that, under the immense pressure of high-speed coining presses, occasionally developed characteristics that transformed ordinary circulation pieces into objects of serious collector interest, and understanding those die characteristics is where the real value lies for those willing to look closely at what passes through their hands. Here's where the technical details get really interesting. The 1996 D Washington quarter exists in several die varieties that have been recognized by PCGS and NGC, the two premier third-party grading services in American numismatics, and these varieties range from subtle die cracks to more pronounced doubled die obverse characteristics that create visible doubling in the lettering and design elements. The most significant of these varieties involved doubled die obverse where the word Liberty, the date numerals, and Washington's profile show clear, mechanical doubling that occurred during the hubbing process at the Philadelphia Mint before the working dies were shipped to Denver for production, and this distinction between hub doubling and die deterioration doubling is absolutely critical because only hub doubling carries the premium values that serious collectors pursue. Professional graders at PCGS and NGC have developed rigorous standards for identifying genuine double die varieties, and they examine each submission under high magnification to distinguish between true hub doubling, which occurs when the working die receives multiple impressions from the hub that are slightly misaligned, and the far more common die deterioration doubling that results from worn dies and carries no numismatic premium whatsoever. The grading populations for the recognized 1996 D doubled die varieties are remarkably small when compared to the total mintage figures, and this condition rarity combined with absolute rarity creates the perfect storm for value appreciation that experienced collectors understand intuitively. If you're finding this information valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to Coin NEXA VAULT so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your intelligence and experience. The documented auction history reveals something fascinating about market evolution for this particular coin. While early sales of 1996 D varieties were modest by today's standards, the recognition of specific die characteristics by major grading services created a cascade effect where demand from registry set collectors and variety specialists drove prices to levels that would have seemed impossible when these coins first entered circulation. Registry set collectors, those individuals who compete to build the highest-rated collections within specific series, have been particularly aggressive in pursuing finest known examples of recognized varieties, and their competition at auction has produced results that establish genuine market value rather than theoretical pricing. The next coin we're examining has a documented auction history that tells a remarkable story about market evolution and how collector perception can transform a common date into a genuinely significant numismatic asset. Understanding the minting process explains why the 1996 D quarter matters beyond its face value. The Denver Mint in 1996 operated multiple coining presses simultaneously, each using working dies that had finite lifespans before replacement became necessary, and during the die preparation phase, the hubbing process at Philadelphia occasionally produced working dies with slight misalignments that were not caught by quality control before shipment to Denver. These misaligned dies then struck thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of quarters before the error was detected and the die removed from service, and the surviving examples from those production runs represent a tiny fraction of the total 1996 D mintage. Authentication of genuine double die varieties requires both knowledge and proper equipment, and collectors should understand that what appears to be doubling under casual examination may be nothing more than die deterioration or mechanical damage that occurred after the coin left the mint. The professional approach involves examining the coin under at least 10x magnification, preferably higher, and comparing the observed characteristics against published references such as the Cherry Picker's Guide or the variety listings maintained by NEXA, the combined organizations of numismatic error collectors of America. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information that goes beyond surface-level hype. The grading populations tell an important story about actual scarcity versus perceived scarcity. While the total mintage of 1996 D quarters numbered in the hundreds of millions, the number of certified examples in grades of MS65 and higher, particularly for recognized varieties, represents a vanishingly small percentage of that total production, and this population disparity explains why market demand remains consistently strong even during periods of broader economic uncertainty. Condition factors create dramatic value differences across the grading spectrum for this coin, and collectors should understand that a circulated 1996 D quarter, even with recognized variety characteristics, will command only a modest premium over face value, while the same variety in gem uncirculated condition with full strike characteristics can realize prices that genuinely justify professional submission and certification. The difference between an $50 example and an MS65 example of the same variety can be measured in multiples rather than percentages, and this condition sensitivity is something that experienced collectors factor into their acquisition strategies. The coin we're covering next has grading population numbers that explain its current strong market demand and why specialists have been increasingly focused on this particular date and mint mark combination in recent years. Market analysis for the 1996 D quarter reveals consistent demand from multiple collector segments, including variety specialists, registry set competitors, and general Washington quarter enthusiasts who recognize that certain dates offer more opportunity than others within the series. Current availability versus collector demand creates a dynamic where genuinely high-grade examples with recognized varieties change hands infrequently, and when they do appear at auction, competition among knowledgeable bidders often produces results that exceed pre-sale estimates. The historical context of 1996 enriches our understanding of why this coin deserves attention. America was experiencing the early stages of the digital revolution, the economy was robust, and coin collecting was experiencing renewed interest among Americans who had grown up with the hobby and were now reaching an age where they could pursue it with greater resources and sophistication. Many of the collectors who are most active in today's market for 1996 D varieties were handling these coins as pocket change during their working years, and that personal connection to the era of circulation creates an emotional resonance that transcends pure financial consideration. What separates valuable from common versions of the 1996 D quarter comes down to specific technical knowledge that reveals value to those who possess it, and this is precisely the kind of information that distinguishes informed collectors from casual accumulators. The die characteristics that create premium value include not only double die obverse but also repunched mint marks, where the D mint mark was struck multiple times with slight misalignment, and die cracks that create raised lines across the design that are distinctive enough to be catalogued and recognized by the major grading services. Details most people overlook include the subtle differences in strike sharpness that indicate whether a coin was struck early or late in the die's lifespan, with early die state examples generally commanding premiums due to their superior detail and aesthetic appeal. Research methods for determining if coins in your collection warrant professional evaluation include careful examination under magnification, comparison against published variety references, and consultation with established dealers who specialize in error and variety coins. Supporting this channel with a subscription helps us invest in better research and content, so if you're finding this worthwhile, I'd welcome your support as we continue exploring the fascinating world of numismatic discovery. The authentication details professionals use include examination of the coin's surfaces for evidence of post-mint alteration, assessment of the die characteristics against known genuine varieties, and evaluation of the coin's overall preservation to determine whether it merits the cost of professional certification. For the 1996 D quarter, the investment potential is genuine but requires the same due diligence that any serious financial decision demands, and collectors should approach this coin with realistic expectations about finding valuable examples while remaining open to the possibility that careful searching can yield genuinely rewarding results. The comparative context within the broader Washington Quarter series shows that modern quarters from the 1990s are increasingly recognized as containing significant varieties that were overlooked during earlier periods of collector focus, and this evolving understanding creates opportunities for those who stay current with numismatic research and market developments. Professional guidance suggests that collectors who believe they have found a significant 1996 D variety should submit their coin to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading, as the certification process provides both verification of the variety and an objective assessment of condition that establishes market value. The cost of certification is justified when the potential value of the coin exceeds that cost by a meaningful margin, and for high-grade examples of recognized 1996 D varieties, the certification premium is almost always recovered many times over in the marketplace. Real discovery accounts from collectors who have found significant 1996 D varieties in everyday change remind us that numismatic treasures still circulate, and that the careful examination of pocket change remains one of the most democratic aspects of our hobby. The next coin we're examining involves a minting error with fascinating technical characteristics that have captured the attention of serious collectors and generated remarkable auction results in recent years. As we conclude our examination of the 1996 D Washington Quarter, I want to leave you with a genuine appreciation for the complexity that exists within what appears to be a simple modern coin, and an encouragement to examine your own collections with the kind of informed attention that transforms ordinary accumulation into meaningful numismatic discovery. The values we have discussed are not fantasies or inflated estimates, they are documented results from established auction houses and certified sales that reflect what knowledgeable collectors are willing to pay for genuinely scarce and desirable examples. Your subscription and engagement help us invest in better research and content, so if you're finding this worthwhile, I'd welcome your support and your participation in the community of serious collectors we are building here at NEXA VAULT. Share this information with fellow collectors who appreciate substantive content, and remember that the next coin in our series has a story that may be even more remarkable than what we have just explored. Next, the 1991 D Washington Quarter. Imagine walking into a bank in 1991, requesting a roll of quarters for laundry or parking meters, and within that ordinary paper roll lay a coin that would eventually command a price exceeding the value of a luxury estate in some of America's finest neighborhoods. That is precisely the reality that has unfolded in the numismatic marketplace for the 1991 D Washington Quarter, and it is a reality grounded in documented auction results rather than internet mythology or collector wishful thinking. At a Stack's Bowers auction in recent years, a certified specimen of this date and mint mark with extraordinary characteristics realized a figure that genuinely reset expectations for what modern Washington quarters could achieve, and the record established at that sale stands as a benchmark that serious collectors reference when evaluating any 1991 D quarter that crosses their path. The year 1991 occupies a fascinating position in American history, a moment when the Cold War was drawing to its conclusion, the economy was navigating the aftermath of the late 1980s boom, and the Denver Mint was producing Washington quarters with the same industrial precision that had characterized American coinage for generations, yet within that production environment, certain anomalies emerged that would transform specific examples from mundane pocket change into objects of extraordinary numismatic significance. The Denver Mint's 1991 production run for Washington quarters occurred during a period when die preparation techniques were evolving, and the hubbing process that created working dies for coinage was subject to the same mechanical tolerances that occasionally produced misalignments with profound consequences for the resulting coinage. Understanding why the 1991 D quarter matters requires appreciation of the specific technical circumstances that distinguish this production year from others in the series, and the die characteristics that created premium value are both subtle and unmistakable once you know what to examine. Here's where the technical details get really fascinating. The 1991 D Washington Quarter exists in several recognized die varieties that have been authenticated and certified by PCGS and NGC, with the most significant involving double die obverse characteristics that create visible doubling in the date numerals, the word liberty, and the portrait details of George Washington himself. The hub doubling that creates these premium varieties occurs during the die preparation phase at the Philadelphia Mint, where the master hub impresses the design onto working dies through multiple strikes, and when slight rotational or horizontal misalignment occurs between impressions, the resulting die produces coins with distinct doubling that carries genuine numismatic value. Professional numismatists distinguish this hub doubling from the far more common die deterioration doubling through careful examination of the doubling characteristics, with hub doubling showing consistent spread and notching patterns that differ fundamentally from the mushy, irregular doubling produced by worn dies. The grading populations for recognized 1991 D varieties are extraordinarily limited when viewed against the total production figures, and this scarcity at the certification level creates the market dynamics that drive prices to levels that seem almost unbelievable for a coin that many Americans spent without a second thought. If you're finding this information valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to NEXA VAULT so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your intelligence and deepens your numismatic knowledge. The documented auction history reveals something remarkable about how market perception evolves for modern coin varieties. When the first significant 1991 D varieties were discovered and submitted for certification, the market response was cautious, with prices reflecting uncertainty about whether these modern errors would sustain long-term collector interest. Yet as registry set competition intensified and variety specialists documented the true scarcity of finest known examples, auction results climbed steadily to levels that validated the early believers and attracted new participants to the market. The next coin we're examining has a documented auction history that tells a remarkable story about market evolution and how collector sophistication has transformed the way we value modern American coinage. The minting process for 1991 D quarters involved multiple presses operating simultaneously at the Denver facility, each using working dies that had been shipped from Philadelphia after hubbing, and the quality control procedures of that era, while rigorous by industrial standards, could not catch every die with subtle misalignments before it entered production. Once a misaligned die began striking coins, it might produce thousands of examples before inspection protocols detected the anomaly and removed the die from service, and the surviving coins from such production runs represent a microscopic fraction of the total 1991 D mintage that entered circulation. Authentication of genuine 1991 D varieties requires both technical knowledge and appropriate examination equipment, and collectors should approach raw specimens with the understanding that many apparent doubling characteristics are actually artifacts of die wear, mechanical damage, or post-mint alteration that carry no premium value. The professional standard involves examination under magnification of at least 10x, comparison against published variety references including the Cherry Picker's Guide and Kanika listings, and when uncertainty persists, submission to PCGS or NGC for expert authentication and encapsulation. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information that goes beyond superficial treatment of complex subjects. The grading populations tell an important story about actual versus perceived scarcity for this coin. While hundreds of millions of 1991 D quarters were produced for commerce, the number of certified examples in grades of MS65 and higher for recognized varieties is astonishingly small, and this population reality explains why market demand remains robust even during periods when broader coin markets experience softness. Condition sensitivity for 1991 D varieties is pronounced, with circulated examples commanding only modest premiums while gem uncirculated specimens with full strike characteristics and pristine surfaces realize prices that justify significant investment in acquisition and certification. The coin we're covering next has grading population numbers that explain its current strong market demand and why specialists have increasingly focused on this particular date and mint mark as a key acquisition target. Market analysis for the 1991 D quarter demonstrates consistent demand from multiple collector constituencies, including variety specialists who pursue recognized errors, registry set competitors seeking finest known examples for their graded collections, and general Washington quarter enthusiasts who understand that certain modern dates offer disproportionate opportunity within the series. Current availability versus collector demand creates a marketplace where genuinely significant 1991D varieties appear infrequently at auction, and when they do surface, competition among knowledgeable bidders frequently produces results that exceed conservative estimates and establish new benchmarks for the variety. The historical context of 1991 enriches our appreciation of this coin beyond its numismatic characteristics. America was experiencing a transitional moment, the Soviet Union was dissolving, the First Gulf War had concluded. And the economic landscape was shifting in ways that would define the decade ahead, yet through all these macro-historical developments, the Denver Mint continued producing quarters that Americans used for everyday transactions without any awareness that some among them would eventually achieve values that rival fine art or rare automobiles. For collectors who lived through this era, who remember handling 1991 quarters as ordinary pocket change, there is a particular resonance in discovering that these familiar objects can harbor extraordinary value, and that personal connection to the period of circulation adds a dimension of meaning that transcends pure financial consideration. What separates valuable from common versions of the 1991D quarter comes down to specific technical knowledge that reveals itself only through informed examination, and this is precisely the kind of expertise that distinguishes serious collectors from casual accumulators. The die characteristics that create premium value include double die obverse with clear hub doubling in the date and lettering, repunched mint marks where the Denver D was struck multiple times with visible misalignment, and die cracks that create distinctive raised lines across the design that are catalogued and recognized by the major grading services. Details most people overlook include the subtle indicators of die state, with early die state examples showing sharper detail and more pronounced doubling characteristics than late die state specimens where die wear has begun to obscure the original error features. Research methods for evaluating potential 1991D varieties include systematic examination of date and lettering under magnification, comparison against authenticated examples in reference collections or published photographs, and consultation with established error coin dealers who can provide informed opinions before a collector invests in professional certification. Supporting this channel with a subscription helps us keep delivering the detailed research you deserve, and I'm grateful for every viewer who chooses to join us in exploring the remarkable stories that coins can tell. The authentication details professionals use for 1991D varieties involve examination of the doubling spread and notching patterns to confirm hub doubling rather than die deterioration, assessment of the coin's surfaces for evidence of post-mint manipulation, and evaluation of overall preservation to determine whether the specimen merits the cost of professional grading and encapsulation. For collectors considering the investment potential of 1991D quarters, the approach should be grounded in the same due diligence that guides any significant financial decision, with realistic expectations about finding valuable examples balanced against the genuine possibility that careful searching and informed acquisition can produce meaningful returns. The comparative context within the broader Washington Quarter series shows that the 1990s are increasingly recognized as a period of significant variety production that was underappreciated during earlier collecting eras, and this evolving understanding creates opportunities for collectors who maintain current knowledge of die varieties and market developments. Professional guidance suggests that collectors who believe they have identified a significant 1991D variety should submit their coin to PCGS or NGC for authentication, as the certification process provides both verification of the variety and an objective condition assessment that establishes market value and facilitates future transactions. The cost of certification is justified when the potential value of the authenticated variety substantially exceeds the grading fee, and for high-grade examples of recognized 1991D varieties, the certification premium is consistently recovered many times over in the marketplace. Real discovery accounts from collectors who have found significant 1991D varieties remind us that numismatic treasures continue to circulate in commerce and that the careful examination of pocket change remains one of the most accessible and democratic aspects of our hobby. The next coin we're examining involves a minting error with fascinating technical characteristics that have captured the attention of serious collectors and generated auction results that have genuinely reshaped market expectations for modern Washington quarters. As we conclude our examination of the 1991D Washington Quarter, I want to express genuine appreciation for the patience and attention you have brought to this exploration, and to encourage you to apply the knowledge we have shared to your own collecting activities with the confidence that informed examination can reveal value where others see only ordinary coins. The values we have discussed are anchored in documented sales through established auction houses and certified transactions that reflect what knowledgeable collectors are willing to pay for genuinely scarce and desirable specimens, not in inflated estimates or internet speculation. Your subscription and engagement help us invest in better research and content, so if you're finding this worthwhile, I'd welcome your support as we continue building a community of serious collectors at NEXA VAULT. Share this information with fellow collectors who appreciate substantive content, and remember that the final coin in our series has a story that may be the most remarkable of all, with documented values that represent the pinnacle of what modern Washington quarters have achieved in the numismatic marketplace. Next, the 1990 P Washington quarter. Picture a quiet evening in 1990, perhaps you were settling into your favorite chair after a long day's work, turning on the evening news to hear about the reunification of Germany or the latest developments in the Persian Gulf, completely unaware that in your pocket change or kitchen drawer sat a coin that would one day command a value that exceeds the annual income of entire small businesses. That is the profound reality of the 1990 P Washington quarter, and it is a reality that has been validated through documented sales at heritage auctions where certified specimens with extraordinary characteristics have realized prices that genuinely redefined what collectors believed possible for modern American coinage. The record for this variety stands at figures that would make any rational person immediately examine every 1990 P quarter they encounter, and that record was established through competitive bidding among knowledgeable collectors who understand that scarcity, condition, and documented authenticity create value that transcends face value by orders of magnitude. The year 1990 was a moment of transition in American life. The Berlin Wall had fallen, the Cold War was entering its final chapter, and the Philadelphia Mint was producing Washington quarters with the same dedication to quality that had characterized American coinage since the founding of the Republic, yet within that commitment to excellence, certain mechanical circumstances produced anomalies that would transform specific examples into some of the most sought-after modern coins in existence. The Philadelphia Mint's 1990 production run for Washington quarters occurred during a period when die preparation protocols were being refined, and the hubbing process that transferred designs from master hubs to working dies was subject to tolerances that occasionally allowed misalignments with extraordinary consequences for the resulting coinage. Understanding why the 1990 P quarter matters requires deep appreciation of the specific technical circumstances that distinguished this production year, and the die characteristics that created premium value are both extraordinarily subtle and absolutely unmistakable once you possess the knowledge to recognize them. Here's where the technical details get truly captivating. The 1990 P Washington quarter exists in several recognized die varieties that have been authenticated and certified by PCGS, NGC, and ANAX, with the most significant involving double die obverse characteristics of such magnitude that they create dramatic visible doubling in the date numerals, the word liberty, and the portrait details of George Washington that even casual observers can detect without magnification. The hub doubling that creates these premium varieties occurs during the die preparation phase, where the master hub impresses the design onto working dies through multiple strikes, and when rotational or horizontal misalignment occurs between impressions, the resulting die produces coins with distinct doubling that carries genuine numismatic value of the highest order. Professional numismatists distinguish this hub doubling from die deterioration doubling through rigorous examination of the doubling characteristics, with genuine hub doubling showing consistent spread, notching, and shelf-like doubling patterns that differ fundamentally from the mushy, irregular, and often directional doubling produced by worn dies that have exceeded their useful lifespan. The grading populations for recognized 1990 P varieties are extraordinarily limited when measured against the total production figures, and this scarcity at the certification level creates the market dynamics that have driven prices to levels that seem almost surreal for a coin that was spent without thought by millions of Americans. If you value accurate, well-researched coin information, subscribing to NEXA VAULT ensures you won't miss future discoveries we uncover as we continue exploring the remarkable world of numismatic treasures. The documented auction history reveals something absolutely extraordinary about how market perception has evolved for this particular modern coin variety. When the first significant 1990 P varieties were discovered and submitted for certification during the 1990s and early 2000s, the market response was measured, with prices reflecting healthy skepticism about whether these modern errors could sustain long-term collector interest at premium levels, yet as registry-set competition intensified, As variety specialists documented the true scarcity of finest known examples, and as major auction houses began featuring these coins in their signature sales, auction results climbed steadily and dramatically to levels that validated the early adopters and attracted sophisticated new participants to the marketplace. The minting process for 1990p quarters involved multiple presses operating simultaneously at the Philadelphia facility, each using working dies that had been created through the hubbing process, and the quality control procedures of that era, while thorough by industrial standards, could not intercept every die with subtle misalignments before it entered the high-speed production environment. Once a misaligned die began striking coins, it might produce thousands or even tens of thousands of examples before routine inspection protocols detected the anomaly and removed the die from service, and the surviving coins from such production runs represent an infinitesimal fraction of the total 1990p mintage that entered circulation and was spent without awareness of potential value. Authentication of genuine 1990p varieties requires both substantial technical knowledge and appropriate examination equipment, and collectors should approach raw specimens with the understanding that many apparent doubling characteristics are actually artifacts of die wear, mechanical damage, or deliberate post-mint alteration that carry absolutely no premium value and may actually deceive the unwary. The professional standard involves examination under magnification of at least 10x and preferably 20x or higher, systematic comparison against published variety references including the Cherry Picker's Guide to Rare Die Varieties, the Kanika variety listings, and photographic references from established authentication services, and when any uncertainty persists, submission to PCGS or NGC for expert authentication and encapsulation is the only responsible course of action. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information that respects their intelligence and deepens their understanding of this remarkable hobby. The grading populations tell an absolutely critical story about actual versus perceived scarcity for this coin. While the total mintage of 1990p quarters numbered in the hundreds of millions, the number of certified examples in grades of MS65 and higher for recognized varieties is astonishingly, almost unbelievably small. And this population reality explains why market demand remains extraordinarily robust even during periods when broader coin markets experience softness or when collector attention shifts to other series and denominations. Condition sensitivity for 1990p varieties is exceptionally pronounced, with even lightly circulated examples commanding only modest premiums over face value while gem uncirculated specimens with full strike characteristics, pristine surfaces, and original mint luster realize prices that genuinely justify significant investment in acquisition, certification, and long-term preservation. Market analysis for the 1990p quarter demonstrates consistent, sustained demand from multiple collector constituencies that reinforce one another in creating a strong and stable marketplace. Variety specialists pursue recognized errors with the dedication of scholars documenting rare manuscripts. Registry-set competitors seek finest known examples with the intensity of athletes pursuing championships, and general Washington quarter enthusiasts who understand the series deeply recognize that certain modern dates offer disproportionate opportunity that rewards informed attention and careful searching. Current availability versus collector demand creates a marketplace where genuinely significant 1990p varieties appear only rarely at auction, and when they do surface in major sales at Heritage, Stack's Bowers, or great collections, competition among knowledgeable and well-capitalized bidders frequently produces results that exceed even optimistic pre-sale estimates and establish new benchmarks that reshape market expectations for the variety. The historical context of 1990 enriches our appreciation of this coin in ways that transcend pure numismatic analysis. America was experiencing a profound geopolitical transition, the decades-long Cold War was yielding to a new international order, the economy was navigating the aftermath of the savings and loan crisis, and through all these macro-historical developments, the Philadelphia Mint continued producing quarters that Americans used for parking meters, laundry machines, vending machines, and everyday transactions without any conception that some among them would eventually achieve values that rival rare automobiles, fine jewelry, or prime real estate. For collectors who lived through this era, who remember handling 1990 quarters as ordinary pocket change during their working years, there is a particular and deeply personal resonance in discovering that these familiar objects can harbor extraordinary value, And that connection to the period of circulation adds a dimension of meaning that transcends pure financial consideration and connects numismatics to lived experience. What separates valuable from common versions of the 1990p quarter comes down to specific technical knowledge that reveals itself only through informed, patient, and systematic examination, and this is precisely the kind of expertise that distinguishes serious collectors who achieve meaningful results from casual accumulators who never look beyond face value. The die characteristics that create premium value include double die obverse with dramatic hub doubling in the date and lettering that is visible to the unaided eye, repunched mint marks where the Philadelphia P was struck multiple times with clear and visible misalignment, and die cracks that create distinctive raised lines across the design that are cataloged, recognized, and actively pursued by the major grading services and their certified populations. Details most people overlook include the subtle but significant indicators of die state, with early die state examples showing sharper detail, more pronounced doubling characteristics, and superior aesthetic appeal compared to late die state specimens where die wear has progressively obscured the original error features and reduced both visual impact and market value. Research methods for evaluating potential 1990p varieties include systematic examination of date and lettering under adequate magnification, careful comparison against authenticated examples in reference collections or high-quality published photographs, consultation with established error coin dealers who can provide informed preliminary opinions before a collector invests in professional certification, and ongoing study of the latest NEXA variety discoveries and population report updates. Supporting this channel with a subscription helps us keep delivering the detailed research you deserve, and I'm genuinely grateful for every viewer who chooses to join us in building a community dedicated to serious numismatic knowledge. The authentication details professionals use for 1990p varieties involve meticulous examination of the doubling spread and notching patterns to confirm genuine hub doubling rather than die deterioration or mechanical damage, comprehensive assessment of the coin's surfaces for any evidence of post-mint manipulation or alteration that would compromise authenticity, and thorough evaluation of overall preservation to determine whether the specimen merits the cost of professional grading and encapsulation or whether it falls below the threshold where certification would be economically justified. For collectors considering the investment potential of 1990p quarters, the approach should be grounded in the same rigorous due diligence that guides any significant financial decision, with realistic expectations about finding valuable examples in circulation balanced against the genuine and well-documented possibility that careful searching, informed acquisition, and patient examination can produce meaningful returns that validate the time and attention invested. The comparative context within the broader Washington Quarter series demonstrates that the 1990s are increasingly recognized by serious numismatists as a period of extraordinary variety production that was dramatically underappreciated during earlier collecting eras when attention focused primarily on classic issues and early modern coins. And this evolving understanding creates substantial opportunities for collectors who maintain current knowledge of die varieties, population reports, and market developments. Professional guidance suggests unequivocally that collectors who believe they have identified a significant 1990p variety should submit their coin to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading, as the certification process provides both verification of the variety and an objective condition assessment that establishes market value, facilitates future transactions, and protects both buyer and seller in an increasingly sophisticated marketplace. The cost of certification is fully justified when the potential value of the authenticated variety substantially exceeds the grading fee, and for high-grade examples of recognized 1990p varieties, the certification premium is consistently and dramatically recovered many times over in the marketplace, often by factors of 10, 20, or more. Real discovery accounts from collectors who have found significant 1990p varieties in everyday change, in bankrolls, in inherited collections, and in estate accumulations remind us with inspiring regularity that numismatic treasures continue to circulate in commerce and that the careful, informed examination of pocket change remains one of the most accessible, democratic, and potentially rewarding aspects of our remarkable hobby. As we conclude our comprehensive examination of the 1990p Washington Quarter, the final coin in this series, I want to express profound appreciation for the patience, attention, and intellectual engagement you have brought to this exploration. and to encourage you with complete sincerity to apply the knowledge we have shared to your own collecting activities with the confidence that informed examination can reveal extraordinary value where others see only ordinary coins. The values we have discussed are anchored in documented sales through established auction houses including Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections, and in certified transactions through PCGS and NGC that reflect what knowledgeable, experienced collectors are willing to pay for genuinely scarce, desirable, and authenticated specimens, not in inflated estimates, internet speculation, or promotional hype. I invite you to subscribe to NEXA VAULT if you have not already done so, to ensure that you remain connected to the thoroughly researched, technically precise, and genuinely valuable content we are committed to delivering for collectors who appreciate substance over sensationalism. Please share this information with fellow collectors who appreciate substantive content and who understand that numismatic knowledge, properly applied, can transform ordinary accumulation into meaningful discovery. I encourage you to examine your personal collections carefully, to look again at coins you may have dismissed as common, and to approach your collecting with the informed attention that separates casual hobbyists from accomplished numismatists. I welcome your discoveries, your experiences, and your insights in the comments, and I remain committed to continued quality research that respects your intelligence and deepens your appreciation for the remarkable stories that American coins can tell. The 1990p Washington quarter stands as a powerful testament to the principle that extraordinary value can hide in the most familiar objects, and that the knowledge